I went with my wife to a barbecue with her coworkers, but then her colleague said something, and I walked away without looking back. I don't know what made me check Kayla's phone bill that night. Maybe it was boredom, maybe it was curiosity, or maybe it was that quiet voice in the back of my head that had started whispering a little louder lately. I'd never been the paranoid type, never had any reason to be. But something had been gnawing at me for weeks. A tension I couldn't name, a distance I didn't know how to close. It started as a simple chore. Kayla had left her laptop open on the kitchen island while she got ready upstairs. I was cleaning up after dinner, loading the dishwasher, wiping the counters. The tab she'd been using was still open, her mobile account. Just a PDF of her phone statement, nothing more. At first, I ignored it. I'm not the kind of guy who snoops. I've always believed that trust matters more than momentary curiosity. But as I walked past it for the third or fourth time, something stopped me. My hand hovered over the mousepad. I glanced at the stairs to make sure she was still upstairs. Then, almost against my better judgment, I clicked. I wish I hadn't. The charge wasn't even buried. There it was, about halfway down. A text receipt from a boutique hotel in Milwaukee. A digital key card link sent directly to her phone. My stomach sank. The date and time matched perfectly with the night she said she was working late. A client dinner that had supposedly run long. She came home around 11 p.m. A little flustered, talking fast, makeup still intact, perfume sharp in the air like she'd just reapplied it minutes before walking through the door. I remembered feeling stupid that night for waiting up. I'd made dinner, even set out candles, trying to do something nice for her. But by the time she got home, she was distant. Not rude, just tired, distracted. The client ran late, she'd said. It was mostly small talk, boring stuff. I wanted to believe her. I did believe her, until I saw that digital room key on her statement. I didn't confront her. Not then. I closed the laptop, rinsed my hands in the sink, and said nothing. The next day, I went about my routine like everything was normal. Coffee at 6:30. Car started by 7. But the question lingered. It followed me from the garage to work and sat next to me through every email and meeting. Who was she with in Milwaukee? That evening, I found something else. I was folding laundry, going through the hamper in the hallway like I always did on Sundays. Kayla had tossed in some of her work clothes, slacks, a couple of fitted blazers, a pair of heels with scuff marks on the bottom that looked newer than the rest. As I turned over one of the jackets, something fell out of the pocket. It was an envelope, small, thick, and sealed with a gold sticker. I opened it and pulled out a folded certificate printed on heavy stock paper. A spa treatment for 2. Full access to the hot tub, steam room, and 90-minute massage. The date at the bottom? Same as the hotel key. Same as her late meeting. My first reaction was denial. Maybe it was a giveaway. Maybe she was holding it for a friend. But the details didn't make sense. Everything, the timing, the place, the business dinner excuse. It all lined up too perfectly. And yet, it also didn't. I placed the certificate on the counter, right where she'd see it when she walked in. No big confrontation, no accusations. Just quiet visibility. When she got home, she noticed it immediately. "Oh, that?" she said casually, walking past it as if she barely recognized it. "That's not mine. One of my clients gave it to me to pass on. He had to cancel last minute. Said I could use it or give it to someone else. Thought maybe one of the girls from the office might want it." She said it so smoothly, like she'd practiced. Her voice didn't waver. Her eyes flicked to mine only briefly before moving on to pour herself a glass of wine. She was wearing that same perfume again, strong and floral, one I didn't recognize. "You could use it," I said, watching her. "Nice place." "Yeah," she replied, not missing a beat. "Supposed to be one of the best in Milwaukee." I let that sit for a moment. "You've been there before?" "No, never," she said too quickly. "Just heard about it from coworkers. It's kind of a hot spot for, like, influencer types. I don't know. Probably not my thing." I nodded. "Okay." And that was it. She didn't ask why the envelope was out. She didn't seem concerned about how I found it. Just breezed right through the explanation like it wasn't odd at all for a woman to carry around a couple's spa certificate that didn't belong to her. I didn't push, but something in me changed that night. Not because I knew anything for sure, but because I saw the signs, subtle, small, but unmistakable. I noticed how she didn't ask what made me curious. She didn't ask what I thought. She didn't even pretend to feel awkward. Just rolled over the truth like it was a speed bump. After she went upstairs, I sat at the kitchen table for a long time. I stared at the empty glass in front of me, the shadows on the walls, the way her voice echoed in the hallway when she took a call upstairs, the way she always seemed to talk in hushed tones now, like the walls had started listening too. I wasn't ready to accuse her. I wasn't even ready to admit out loud what I was thinking. But I did take out my phone and start a list. Not a formal one, just a few bullet points typed into the Notes app. Things that didn't sit right. The spa certificate. The hotel key. The makeup that never seemed to smudge anymore. The phone that now lived face down on the nightstand. A week later, I added another item. Kayla changed her phone password. Again. She'd never done that before without telling me. I asked her about it, and she shrugged, said she was trying to be more secure after a coworker got hacked. Totally random, she insisted. Nothing to worry about. I smiled, nodded, said it made sense. But the list kept growing. Little things. The way she started getting dressed up for team meetings. The new lingerie I didn't remember buying. Her sudden interest in Pilates. Not the studio down the street, but one halfway across town with towel service and champagne on Saturdays. Girls' nights with names I didn't recognize. Places I'd never been invited to. I told myself not to jump to conclusions. People change. Routines shift. But that whisper in the back of my head was now speaking clearly, calmly, and with purpose. Something isn't right. And I knew it. Even if I wasn't ready to say it out loud yet, I knew it. Once you notice one thing, you start noticing everything. After the hotel receipt and spa certificate, I told myself I was being paranoid. That I should trust her. That a couple of coincidences didn't mean anything. Not really. But it's amazing how quickly those coincidences begin to stack when you start paying attention. The first real pattern I picked up on was the phone. It was always face down now. Always. On the table during dinner, beside the bed at night, on the armrest of the couch while we watched TV. She used to leave it wherever, screen up, sometimes unlocked. Now it might as well have been glued to her hand unless I was looking. She also started turning off location sharing. I only noticed because we used to have it on for each other. Something casual, left over from a road trip a couple years back. We never turned it off afterward, and neither of us had any issue with it. Then one day, I opened the app and saw the message. Location not available. I asked her about it casually. She didn't even flinch. Oh, I updated the settings when I got the new OS. I must have turned it off by accident. She kissed me on the cheek and walked into the kitchen like that was the end of it. Next came the girls' nights. Thursday nights, to be exact. First, it was every other week. Then it became weekly. Always with friends I'd never heard of, Jess or Tiff or Maya. Which sounded made up. She used to go out with coworkers I actually knew by name, people I'd met. Now it was vague new people I never saw photos of, whose last names never came up, whose social media accounts didn't exist when I searched. I'd ask, which Jess? And she'd say, you wouldn't know her. She's new. Eventually I stopped asking, but I never stopped listening. It wasn't just the nights out. It was how she got ready for them. She used to throw on whatever was clean. Now she'd spend an hour in the bathroom, doing full makeup, curling her hair, reapplying perfume. That same sharp, floral scent that had become her go-to. She'd leave in heels and come back barefoot, sometimes with a faint smear of lipstick, sometimes without. One night, while she was out, I noticed the scent of men's cologne on her coat. Not mine. Subtle but distinct. I stood in the laundry room holding that coat for what felt like 10 minutes, just breathing in what I didn't want to believe. I started digging. I checked our joint credit card account and found toll charges. Almost always on Thursdays. Same toll, same direction, between 6 o'clock and 6:30 p.m. Return trip after midnight. She never mentioned driving out of the city. I tracked the route. It led northwest toward Wisconsin. She also started racking up hotel points. We'd never been loyalty members with any chain, but suddenly she had an account with one of those boutique travel clubs. I found the email in the trash. Welcome to your rewards journey. Personalized offers. Spa discounts. Romantic getaways. Romantic? That word stayed with me longer than I care to admit. I noticed new clothes too. Pricey brands. Stuff she never wore around me. Dresses that still had tags on them. Boxes from online boutiques that she quickly stashed away. When I asked about them, she called them samples from a friend's styling business. Said she might return most of them. Sure. Then there were the passwords. We used to know each other's, not officially but casually. If one of us needed to log in to Spotify or order food, we'd just shout it from the next room. Hers used to be our anniversary with a couple of exclamation points. Now everything was different. Phone, laptop, even her cloud backup. I only realized it when I tried to stream music from her account on our shared speaker and got locked out. When I asked, she acted like it was no big deal. Oh, right. I updated all my passwords after that security breach at work. IT told everyone to. I Googled it. There was no breach. Not even close. But I nodded anyway. Said I understood. I always said I understood. I started watching more carefully. I noticed how she never took calls around me anymore. She used to take them on speaker while cooking or folding laundry. Now every call happened behind closed doors. In the bathroom, the garage, the car with the door closed and engine running. And when she wasn't talking, she was texting. Her fingers moving fast. Thumbs dancing across the screen like she was racing someone. She smiled at the screen more than she smiled at me. That might have been the moment I realized I was no longer in the loop. I was the loop. One night, while she was out with Maya, I walked into our bedroom and realized she had left her tablet charging on the dresser. I picked it up. Locked. I tried the old passcode. Denied. I tried the new one she gave me a few days earlier when she claimed she hadn't changed anything. Wrong again. The lies weren't just growing. They were rehearsed. She'd always been good at telling stories. That's what made her great at sales. But now, every explanation sounded like something she'd practiced in the mirror. Her tone was too even. Too quick. She smiled at the right moments. Made eye contact just long enough. She'd even started talking to me like I was HR. Babe, I really need you to trust me. I know things have felt a little weird lately, but I'm just stressed from work. I'm sorry if I haven't been present. It's not about you. It's me. Not once did she ask what I was feeling. Not once did she say she understood that I might be confused or concerned or even hurt. It was all theater. And I sat in the front row every night, pretending not to notice that the stage lights had long since dimmed. One Thursday I followed her. I told her I had a work dinner. Left 15 minutes before she did. Drove 2 blocks, parked behind a dry cleaner, and waited. At 6:38 p.m. I watched her pull out of our driveway in her new blazer and heels. Hair curled, lips a deep shade of red I'd never seen before. She didn't go to the wine bar she told me about. She got on the highway, drove out past the Beltline, kept going for almost 2 hours. I stayed behind, a couple exits back, not close enough to be seen. Eventually, I lost her. There were too many turnoffs, too many hotels in that stretch of road. I didn't want to follow her into a parking lot. I didn't want her to spot me, and, deep down, I didn't want to see what I knew I'd find. That night, she got home at 12:43 a.m. I pretended to be asleep. She peeled off her clothes in the bathroom, tiptoed into bed, and let out a long breath like she'd just come home from war. I kept my eyes closed and counted the seconds between her sigh and the buzz of her phone on the nightstand. 2 seconds. One buzz. Then another. She turned over, angled the phone away from me, and tapped out a message in silence. I stopped pretending after that. The next day, I called my childhood friend Mark, a guy I hadn't spoken to in months, maybe more. He works in private security now. Background checks, digital tracking, surveillance, the stuff you don't think you'll ever need until you do. I didn't want to go through with it, I didn't want to be the guy who installs trackers or taps phones or reads private messages. But I also didn't want to be the guy who keeps playing dumb while his wife builds a second life 2 states over. Can you find out who she's meeting on Thursdays? I asked. Mark was quiet for a second. Then he said, yeah, I can. I gave him the info, her schedule, her license plate, her phone number. I told him I wasn't looking for gossip. I wasn't looking for a gotcha moment. I just wanted clarity. He said he'd call me in a week. I hung up and sat on the couch in the dark. My chest was tight, my jaw sore from clenching it so often. I didn't want to hate her. I just wanted the truth. Whatever that was. I looked at her photo on the mantel. The one of us on the lake, smiling in the wind. Her hand on my chest like she never wanted to be anywhere else. That version of her felt so far away. Mark called me exactly 6 days later. I was at the garage, elbows deep in the guts of a transmission, trying to keep my mind anywhere but where it always wandered lately. I'd almost forgotten he was supposed to be following up. Almost. He didn't waste time. You were right, he said. There was a pause on my end. I wiped my hands on a rag, the sound of the shop radio buzzing faintly in the background. I didn't say anything, just waited. She's not going to girls' night. Not unless the girls are checking into lakeside lodges under fake names. He didn't say it to be cruel, just blunt, matter of fact. He'd always been that way. Said facts were easier to swallow than sugar-coated lies. I wasn't sure I agreed, but I appreciated it in that moment. Mark had tailed her the previous Thursday, from our driveway all the way up through Wisconsin. No slip-ups, no guesswork. He followed from a distance, took photos from the lot across the lodge, even went inside for a coffee and confirmed her check-in at the front desk. The hotel was tucked along the water. A cozy, boutique lodge with rustic wood beams and stone fireplaces. The kind of place we'd once talked about going to for a winter getaway. Back when weekends meant something. She wasn't alone. She pulled up, waited exactly 3 minutes, and a man arrived in a dark sedan. Mark caught them embracing by the entrance. Subtle but close. Familiar. They didn't kiss, but their body language didn't scream professional. At check-in, they approached the desk together and received a single key card. No luggage. No overnight bags. Just 2 people who didn't need much. Mark didn't get a name, but he didn't need one. He gave me the time-stamped photos. My wife in her camel coat and black heels, standing at the check-in counter, smiling softly, her hand resting on the man's forearm. They left the next morning at 6:42 a.m. Together. There were no dramatic moments. No make-out in the lobby. Just a quiet exit. 2 people who knew how to move discreetly. 2 people used to this routine. Mark emailed me everything. Photos, timestamps, lodge reservation receipts. The guy must have booked using an alias or maybe a business account, but the room number and dates were clear. It's her, I said quietly, flipping through the files from my laptop. Yeah, he replied. Sorry, man. I hoped I'd be calling you with nothing. I didn't cry, didn't scream. I just thanked him, closed the laptop, and sat on the edge of our bed staring at the wall for a long time. There's something about knowing, really knowing, that hits different than suspicion. When it's just a gut feeling, you can still pretend. Still cling to the edge of denial. But once it's documented, photographed, sealed in a folder named evidence, that's when reality moves in and takes the air out of the room. The next time she said she was heading out for dinner with the team, I didn't blink. Just nodded, told her to be safe. She kissed me goodbye like usual, one hand on my cheek, her voice smooth as glass. That same night, I opened her email on our shared tablet. I wasn't sure what I was looking for. Closure, maybe. Proof that she felt something. Guilt, remorse, hesitation. Instead, I found a folder in her drafts. It wasn't even well hidden. Titled Follow-Up Notes. Inside were emails that were never sent. Half-finished thoughts to someone named T. Notes about travel. Jokes about me being clueless. One draft said, next week might be tight. He's starting to notice things. Might need to pivot to Madison for a while. I stopped reading after that. She didn't even use his full name. Just T. The next morning, She brought me coffee in bed. Said she was thinking we should plan something for fall. We've been overdue for a trip, she said brightly. How about the North Shore? I sipped the coffee and nodded. She smiled and kissed me on the forehead before heading off to shower. I stared at the mug in my hands like it might reveal some kind of answer I hadn't found yet. I didn't know who this version of her was. A week passed before I heard from Mark again. He had one more update. Said the man, whoever he was, had picked her up this time. Kayla left our house in a hoodie and leggings, hair in a bun, no makeup. But when she got into the car, she had a duffel bag. He took more photos, this time at a different, same part of the state, just farther off the highway. What do you want to do? He asked. That was the question, wasn't it? What do I want to do? Blow up the whole thing? Wait for her to come clean? Catch her red-handed and play the role of the betrayed husband in a shouting match that would leave both of us hollow? I didn't have an answer. I closed the file and drove to the lake that afternoon. Just parked near the shore and watched the water roll in. The waves didn't care what day it was, or who loved who, or what promises were being broken. I sat there for hours. That night I dreamt about our wedding. Not the actual ceremony, just the feeling of it. That sense of standing next to someone who swore they were all in, who looked me in the eyes and promised to choose me again and again, no matter how hard it got. I woke up with tears on my cheeks. But by morning, I was back to quiet, back to routine. A few days later, she asked me if I wanted to go with her to her company's summer barbecue. Said it'd be nice for me to meet some people. I hadn't met most of her newer coworkers, and truthfully, I hadn't been invited to anything since before the pandemic. I agreed. Not because I wanted to play the supportive husband, but because I was curious. That Friday, we drove out to the park together. She played music, wore sunglasses, sang along to the radio. She looked relaxed, happy. The version of her I hadn't seen in months. We arrived at the city park around 6 p.m. Picnic tables, catered food, some lawn games, drinks in plastic cups. It was casual, friendly, low stakes. Her coworkers smiled politely, shook my hand, asked what I did for work. I kept my answers short and observed. That's when I started to notice something I hadn't anticipated. They all knew, not explicitly, not directly, but in the way they spoke about Thursdays. Oh, Kayla's always disappearing midweek, one woman joked with a laugh. She's got her mystery appointments, spa days, secret retreats. Another chimed in. You still using that gift basket excuse? She teased. Kayla laughed too hard. Oh my God. You guys, shut up. They all laughed, like it was a running bit. I just smiled. My heart thudded in my chest, slow and hollow. Then someone, I think his name was Corey, said, remember the basket mix-up with the front desk at that lodge? Kayla froze for half a second, just enough to notice. No idea what you're talking about, she said, sipping her drink. He shrugged. Thought it was you. Never mind. The conversation shifted, but my stomach didn't. In that moment, it became clear. Her secret wasn't a secret. Not really. Not to them. Not to the people she saw every day. They all knew, or at least strongly suspected. And not a single one of them cared enough to say anything. To her. Or to me. Later that evening, I stepped away from the group. Walked out toward the tree line. The sun was setting, throwing gold across the grass. I stood alone for a while, watching kids run through sprinklers, couples grilling burgers, laughter echoing through the trees. Kayla came looking for me eventually, found me standing near the edge of the clearing. Hey, she said, wrapping an arm around mine. Everything okay? I looked at her for a long moment. She looked beautiful, wind in her hair, cheeks flushed from wine. It hit me just how far she'd gone from the woman I used to know. Yeah, I said quietly. Everything's fine. We left before dark. She fell asleep on the ride home, head against the window, breathing steady. I drove in silence. There was nothing left to confront. No big reveal waiting to happen. I had everything I needed. I didn't bring it up on the drive home. Not the gift basket comment. Not the laughter. Not the way her coworkers looked at me like I was the punchline to a joke they'd been telling for months. She dozed off in the passenger seat, head tilted toward the window, one hand resting lightly in her lap, peaceful, like nothing in the world was bothering her. I watched her out of the corner of my eye at a stoplight, wondering how someone could sleep so easily next to a person they were lying to. We got home just after 10. I helped her out of the car, unlocked the front door, and let her walk in ahead of me. She kicked off her shoes by the door, humming some tunes stuck in her head. Then she turned to me with that same soft smile. "You were great tonight," she said, stepping closer. "They all really liked you." I smiled back. "Yeah." She nodded, leaning in to kiss me. "Thanks for coming." "Of course," I said, voice even. "Wouldn't miss it." She disappeared upstairs to take off her makeup. I stayed downstairs a while, lights low, staring at the framed photo of us on the wall. Lake Superior 3 summers ago. Her arms around my waist, hair tangled in the wind. That wide, wild smile she used to wear when the world felt full of possibilities. I didn't sleep that night, didn't even try. I laid in bed next to her, listening to the soft rhythm of her breathing, wondering how long she had been building this new life, wondering if there had ever been a point when she considered stopping, or if it had always been a foregone conclusion. A slide she never intended to get off of. In the morning, I made coffee like usual. Made her favorite breakfast, 2 eggs over medium, toast with butter and jam, the kind that always stuck to the knife. I wasn't trying to win her back. I wasn't even angry. I just wanted to see what she'd do with kindness she no longer deserved. She ate with a smile, complimented the eggs, kissed my cheek before leaving for yoga. I watched her drive off, then closed the door behind her and locked it. That weekend, I began my exit. It didn't feel dramatic. No rage, no shouting. Just quiet preparation, the kind that comes when you've already made your decision. I gathered my documents. Passport, birth certificate, financial records. I updated my passwords. I canceled every autopay tied to our joint account. Stopped every automatic renewal, subscription, shared streaming service. I withdrew my share of the savings. Left her half, more than half actually. I wasn't interested in fighting for scraps. I just didn't want to be tethered to a sinking ship any longer. I found an apartment in Minneapolis. Small place, 2 rooms, exposed brick, decent view of the street. I signed the lease that Sunday, paid the deposit in full, and scheduled the move for the following weekend. I told no one, not even my brother. I wasn't ready for questions. That night, I sat on the back porch while Kayla took a bath upstairs. Her glass of wine rested on the railing half full. Her phone was in the bathroom with her, always was now, and the lock screen lit up twice in the span of 5 minutes. I didn't look. I didn't need to anymore. She came out with a towel in her hair, skin flushed pink from the heat. "You okay?" she asked, drying her arms. "Yeah," I said. "Just tired." She nodded, leaned down to kiss the top of my head, and went inside. I stared at the stars for a long time that night. Not because I was searching for signs or closure, I just didn't want to forget what it felt like to be still. To know something for certain. To have a choice and finally make it. The day I left, I didn't say goodbye. I waited until she was gone, off to brunch or spin class or wherever she was pretending to be. I packed what I needed into 2 duffel bags. Left the rest. I wasn't interested in collecting memories that no longer belonged to me. I wrote no note, made no dramatic declaration. I simply walked out the door and locked it behind me, dropped the keys in the mailbox, drove to Minneapolis. By the time she got home, I was already gone. I didn't block her number. I didn't send a message. I just let the silence speak for itself. For the first few days, she didn't call. Then the text started. Simple at first. "Where are you? Are you okay?" Then came the confusion. "Why would you do this? I don't understand." And finally, the shift. "Can we talk? Please. Just call me." I didn't respond. Not because I was trying to hurt her, but because I'd spent too long pretending things could be fixed. I didn't need her to understand anymore. I didn't need anything from her at all. Word got around. Apparently, She showed up at my brother's house, called a few of our mutual friends, asked if they'd seen me, if they knew what was going on. They didn't say much. Most of them were already suspicious. People notice when someone starts changing their schedule and avoiding eye contact. I kept my head down. Got a job at a local garage in Minneapolis. Not a glamorous spot, but the kind where the coffee's always strong and the guys don't ask too many questions. I told them I needed a fresh start. They nodded like they'd heard it before. I liked that. No pretense. No pity. Just work and oil and busted knuckles. A few weeks after I left, I checked her Instagram. Just once. Not out of longing, just curiosity. She hadn't posted anything new, but her stories were still going. Wine glasses. Quotes about growth. A close-up of her face with a sunset filter and the caption, "Choose joy." I closed the app. Deleted it. A month went by. Then two. I didn't hear anything directly from her. Not until the envelope arrived, handwritten, no return address. Just my name and my Minneapolis address in the center of the envelope, in the neat cursive she used for holiday cards and dinner party invites. I almost didn't open it, but I did. Inside was a letter. 2 pages. Carefully written. She didn't try to deny anything. In fact, she didn't mention the affair at all. Not directly. Just wrote about feeling lost. About how things had changed between us. About how she missed me. How she missed us. She ended it with, "I know you probably won't write back, and I don't blame you, but I just needed to say I'm sorry. For all of it." There was no return address. Just the signature, Kayla. I folded the letter neatly and slid it into a drawer I don't open often. Then I went back to work. Some people look for confrontation, for the dramatic finale. But me, I didn't need it. I didn't want to stand across from her and list every betrayal. I didn't want to play the part of the wounded husband while she cried and said things she didn't mean. What I wanted was peace. And for the first time in a long time, I had it. In the months that followed, I built a rhythm. Work. Grocery runs. Long walks. I joined a local gym. Found a small diner I liked, where the waitress learned my name by the 3rd visit. I let my beard grow out. Bought new clothes. Started reading again. Real books, the kind that smelled like old paper and possibility. The world didn't stop when I left. And eventually, neither did I. I didn't hear about it directly from her. Of course not. It came in pieces, through friends of friends, LinkedIn updates, whispers that made their way across state lines like old smoke. I wasn't looking for news. I wasn't stalking her life or checking her socials. But the truth has a way of finding you when it wants to be known. The first real update came from Alec, a guy we used to double date with, back when Friday nights meant tapas and trivia instead of silence and suspicion. He sent a simple text. "Hey, don't know if you heard. Things are unraveling on her end. Thought you'd want to know." I stared at the message for a while before I replied. "Not really, but I appreciate it." Then came the details, slow, hesitant, offered like a warning but landing more like a weather report. Impersonal, distant, predictable. Apparently, Kayla had been removed from her biggest client accounts. Quietly, without much public fuss. One day she was leading strategy calls and walking into meetings with the head of sales. The next, she was supporting from the sidelines. Word was, the company had launched an internal review after multiple HR complaints tied to personal boundaries and undisclosed relationships. I didn't ask questions. I didn't need confirmation. Whatever she'd had going on with T, the man from the lodge, the Thursday night ghost, it had either ended or gone sideways. My guess? He worked with her, or for her. And once I left, there was no more secrecy left to hide behind. She started showing up to work late, started leaving early, started burning bridges with people who used to be in her corner. A month or 2 later, I found out she'd sold her car. That part surprised me. Not because she loved the thing, but because of what it represented. It had been a gift to herself the year she got promoted. A clean white crossover with tan leather seats and a panoramic sunroof she never stopped bragging about. The car she drove to the lake house. The one I used to wash on Sundays while she worked on spreadsheets inside. Gone now. Rumor was she'd traded down. Took the cash, cleared some credit card debt. Her landlord was increasing rent, and her name hadn't been on the lease for long. She wasn't in our old place anymore. She moved out barely a month after I left, maybe less. Her new apartment was in an industrial part of town, not far from a rail yard and a cement plant. Noisy, cheap, practical, the kind of place where sunlight fought to get through the windows. I didn't go there, obviously, just heard about it. Through someone who worked near the building and saw her once in the parking lot, struggling with a box full of clothes. No more heels, no more tailored coats, just sweatpants and tired eyes. I didn't feel smug about any of it. Just still, numb maybe, detached in a way I hadn't thought was possible. I didn't wish her pain. I didn't wish her anything. She wasn't mine to wish for anymore. There was one thing that stuck with me, though. She gave away the dog. Max. A scrappy little rescue we'd adopted 3 years ago. Part terrier, part mystery. Nervous around strangers. Obsessed with tennis balls. Absolutely inseparable from her. That dog used to follow her from room to room like a shadow. She called him her little guy. Took him everywhere. Dog parks, patios, even that one boutique store downtown that gave out fancy biscuits. Gone. I heard from a mutual acquaintance, a friend of a friend who still followed her on social, that she posted a story with a caption, "Rehomed Max today. It's for the best. He deserves better." That was the only sentence that ever made me feel anything close to sympathy. She was right. He did. I remember sitting on my apartment floor that night, staring at the blank TV screen, wondering what it felt like to hand off the last creature on earth that loved you unconditionally. What it cost her to make that drive, to watch him walk away on a leash held by someone else. What it felt like to be that alone. But I didn't reach out. I didn't ask how she was doing. I didn't offer comfort or closure. She'd made her bed. I wasn't going to hold her hand while she tried to lie in it. About 4 months after I left, a letter showed up. Handwritten. Neatly folded inside a brown envelope with no stamp. Just dropped through my apartment's mail slot like a ghost in the night. I stared at it for a while before opening it. Her handwriting hadn't changed. Still narrow, clean, with big loops on the Y's and G's, like it had been written by someone trying to hold it together. Trying too hard to be graceful under pressure. John, I don't know if you'll read this, and I don't know if it even matters anymore. But I wanted to try. Not because I expect forgiveness, I don't. But because silence has started to eat me alive. She wrote about